Okay, well, Dylan's not here, so he can't defend himself. The other day he called me a piss baby. He came up to me and he just said, "Hey, you're a piss baby." And then he walked away, did like the L on the forehead thing, and said, "Bye-bye, butt love." He can't defend himself. As far as you know, that's true. Anyway, so today I'm going to mix it up, and I'm not going to do anything of my own. Instead, I'm going to introduce you to a man named Norman. Norman is a middle-aged, balding, white man in like middle-class America. He lives alone in a small one-bedroom house with his cat, who is also named Norman. While some people might refer to him as a writing prompt, I refer to him as beautiful. So I'm just going to read you some stories that other people have written. I think it's awesome. People have compiled these into anthology books, and it's super nice. If you've ever seen Joe Pera, that show, it's very similar in vibe. So I just think it's cool, and I think you guys should check it out. There's a Reddit for it where people post their own. It's not super active, but you know, you could change that. Anyway, eventually Ski's just going to stop me. So this one is called Norman Writes a Hate Note. We're starting off big. Norman had just gotten off of work and began walking home when he noticed a car taking up 2 parking spaces in the parking lot. Norman realized he had blank post-it notes and a pen in his suitcase. Now, Norman had never written a hate note before, and he worried he may never get the opportunity again. He really didn't want to let this guy off lightly because he parked so inconsiderately, so he decided that he would really let him have it in this note. Norman poured out his anger directly into it, not letting himself hold back at all. "Please park more carefully," the note read. When Norman got home, his palms were still sweating. The adrenaline kept him shaking. Satisfied with himself, he turned on CSI and leaned back in his favorite chair. He still couldn't believe how boldly he acted. It was so unlike him. Norman came to greet Norman and then lied down on his lap. "You would not believe what I did today," Norman exclaimed excitedly, as he pulled out the note from his pocket and showed it to Norman. Well, that's Norman. Okay, this one is called Norman Yawns at Work. Halfway through his day at work, Norman yawned. "Oh no, don't start doing that," a coworker joked. Norman chuckled. "Yeah, I know. Rough night?" "You could say that," Norman lied. Norman didn't have a rough night. Norman had gotten 8 restful hours of sleep. He was just always a little tired. Woo! Woo! I don't know, I just think this stuff it's so calm and nice. It's just very sweet. Okay, this one gets a bit sad, but we're doing it. This one is titled Norman Calls His Son. It was Saturday, and Norman hadn't spoken to his son in a while. He wondered how his son was getting along. Norman took the phone off its cradle and dialed. The line rang twice and then went to voicemail.
They might not want to do it.
Norman never liked leaving messages. It always felt so impersonal. So he hung up the phone. He's probably out having fun with his friends. Good for him, Norman thought. He contemplated calling again. No, it'd be best not to be a bother. Norman sat down to watch some golf on TV, waiting for his son to call him back. He took a nap in his recliner while the TV droned. Norman woke up at 6 to the phone ringing. He picked it up. "Hello, Mr. Norman. Are you satisfied with your long-distance service?" He was, thank you very much. By the time 10 o'clock rolled around, it was time to go to bed. His son hadn't called back. But that was okay. Norman was happy to think his son was out having fun with his friends. He wasn't offended that calling back had skipped his son's mind. Norman had had worse birthdays. It's the sad part at the end, yeah. This one is called Norman Gets Asked for Sex. Norman checks in the box that says mail and gives it back to the physician. He hopes the appointment doesn't take long. Norman might be hungry. It's the whole thing. This one is titled, Norman Finds Some Wet Cement. Norman was walking along the sidewalk, deep in thought, about what to have for dinner, when he noticed something off about a paving slab in front of him. Next to it was a large sign that read, Wet Cement. Norman barely glanced at it. He was suddenly overtaken with an unshakable, insane urge to step in the wet cement. He cautiously looked left, and then right. Then he craned his neck to check behind him. No one. This was it. He leapt in a joyous moment of unbridled freedom into the wet cement, a canvas for his animalistic freedom. His heart leapt with terrified delight as he turned and saw the footprints left behind him in the sidewalk. He quickly returned home, his heart racing and his mind back on dinner. As he stepped into the house, he was met with a familiar, anxious voice. Norman, Norman cried out, just having gotten home from work himself. He scooped up the cat in his arms. What adventure have you been up to? You're filthy. It was the cat as the twist. Woo! Thank you. That's it. Okay, well. Bye, everyone.